Louis Pasteur. You've definitely seen that name, probably on a milk carton. But the man behind the process? Wow, he was so much more than just a food safety pioneer. His story is like a scientific thriller, seriously full of ancient ideas, brilliant experiments, and some crazy high-stakes gambles that absolutely changed the world. Okay, let's get into it. It sounds like a joke, right? But the answer connects everything. The very same mind that was trying to figure out why wine was going bad for Napoleon III would later face one of the most terrifying diseases known to humanity. And the common thread through all of it? Tiny, invisible organisms. So first things first, let's get something straight about his most famous discovery. Pasteurization isn't about just nuking everything. It's actually a really delicate balance. See, unlike sterilization, which kills all life, Pasteur's method uses just enough heat to get rid of the dangerous microbes without wrecking the food itself. It's all about safety through precision, not just brute force. To really understand the real Pasteur, we have to start with the legend. The public health hero we all think we know. The guy's work saved countless lives and totally reshaped how we see the world. Okay, try to imagine a world where people truly believed that life could just pop into existence, that fleas could literally come from dust, or that maggots were created by dead meat. Now, this wasn't some fringe theory. For 2,000 years, this was the scientific consensus, an idea stretching all the way back to Aristotle. For 2 millennia, this was the best explanation they had for decay and disease. It wasn't that some invisible thing was causing the rot. The thinking was that the rot itself was creating new life. This is the intellectual giant that Louis Pasteur decided to take on. And how did he do it? How do you kill an idea that's been around for 2,000 years? Well, not with complicated math or theories, but with one of the most simple, most elegant experiments in the history of science. Okay, now what's so beautiful about this is its simplicity. Pasteur just boils some broth in a flask, killing anything inside. Now, air could still get in through that long, curvy neck, but any dust, and the microbes hitching a ride on it, got trapped in the bend. And guess what? The broth stayed perfectly clear. But the second he tilted that flask, letting that trapped dust touch the broth, bam! Life exploded. And just like that, with one simple visual proof, Pasteur completely shattered a 2,000-year-old belief. He proved that microbes didn't just appear out of nowhere. They came from other microbes, floating in from the world around us. This one experiment changed absolutely everything. So this discovery was a massive turning point, because if microbes from the air could spoil broth, what else could they do? This is where Pasteur's work makes a huge pivot. From saving wine to saving lives. And this is it, the germ theory of disease. The idea that these tiny little invaders are the reason for sour beer, sure, but also for things like cholera, anthrax, for sickness, and for death. It seems so obvious to us now, but back in the 19th century, this was a radical, revolutionary concept. And you want to talk about impact? Check this out. A surgeon named Joseph Lister read Pasteur's work and had a light bulb moment. He realized the germs in the air were probably what was causing all the deadly infections in his surgical patients. So he started using antiseptics to create a clean barrier. The result? A complete revolution in surgery that has saved millions upon millions of lives. Okay, so this brings us to the most dramatic chapter of the legend, Pasteur the Vaccine Hunter. And here, the enemy wasn't just spoiled food or an infected wound. It was a literal death sentence. This is the story we all know from school. Rabies was 100% fatal. A 9-year-old boy, Joseph Meister, gets horribly bitten by a rabid dog. In a totally desperate move, Pasteur injects him with a vaccine he has never ever tested on a human being. It's a huge gamble, and the boy lives. Pasteur becomes an international icon overnight, the man who conquered rabies. And this heroic version of the story became the official story. I mean, as you can see right here on this modern timeline of rabies vaccine development, everything starts with Pasteur in 1885. It's this perfect, clean story of scientific courage that cemented his heroic status for generations. But was it? Because in the 1970s, 100 years of Pasteur's private sealed lab notebooks were finally opened to the public, and they told a story that was way more complex and honestly, way more troubling. His own notes show that Joseph Meister wasn't the first. No, Pasteur had already tried the vaccine on a man who just disappeared after one shot, and on a young girl who died. He told the world he'd proven it was safe on dozens of dogs, but his notes just didn't back that up. And even his famous public demonstration of the anthrax vaccine, it was a deception. He had secretly used a method that his rival developed just to make sure it worked. So what does all this do to the legend? Well, it doesn't erase his genius, not at all, but it forces us to look at a much more complicated and, frankly, a much more human figure. You know, the myth paints this picture of a lone genius, working by himself. The reality is he had a whole dedicated team, including his wife Marie, and he often built on the work of others. The myth is of a flawless hero of science, but the reality? It includes some serious ethical shortcuts and really intense professional rivalries. And his ideas weren't an instant hit. He fought for decades against resistance from the scientific establishment. But his legacy isn't just about the man himself. It's about the institution and the whole movement he created. Today, there are 33 Pasteur institutes all across 5 continents, still continuing his work on the front lines of global health. And maybe this quote from the opening of his own institute really gets to the heart of it. Despite his flaws, his ambition, and even his deceptions, Pasteur's ultimate goal was to build something that would last, something that would serve everyone. Which leaves us with this big question. We now know the path he took to these world-changing discoveries was messy, and by today's standards, ethically very questionable. So does that diminish the result? It's a complicated question, and it forces us to see science not as this clean, perfect process, but as a deeply human one, driven by brilliant and, sometimes very flawed people.